Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again, here with another round with regards to Mr. Christian Craighead on the Shawn Ryan Show. So let's jump back in.
But you have the people who, the Republicans who want a united Ireland. That's the IRA. But then you have loyalist terrorists who don't want a united Ireland, and they fight each other and kill each other.
Okay.
And it came to a boiling point in the 1960s.
Are any of these government entities?
There is a political wing of the IRA, which is Sinn Féin, and again, apologies to everyone out there who's watching, going, I'm not 100%, and it is.
This is the way that you understand it. Yeah. So
we were just supporting police operations. I mean, I was a young 18-year-old young guy on patrol.
How did it feel?
Yeah,
being out there for the first time.
Yeah, it was good. Well, so I went to like an operating base in West Belfast, and I was 17 years old when I got there, and they just started like a 6-week rotation in this patrol base. So I can't go on the ground. So my task when I first get there is I'm the company runner. So I'm sitting in the ops room, making cups of tea and stuff for the people, and delivering messages, because no mobile phones or anything then. And and I'd only been there a few days, and then my 18th birthday was coming up. Didn't think anything of it at the time. So it's day before my birthday, and my stick, who I'm being attached to, they're going out on patrol. And the stick leader's like, "Hey, just hang in the room. Watch. You're not doing duty. You don't have to be in the ops room tonight. Just watch a movie and get your head down. We'll not be back till early hours of the morning." I'm like, okay. So I'm watching a movie, and then I go to bed. And then at 1 minute past midnight, the door gets kicked in, and my stick leader's there in all his gear, and says, who ended up in the SAS himself, like before me. He's then going, "Hey, Craighead, get your gear on. We're going out." Like, because now I'm legal. 1 minute past, so I put on my full gear, and all the police and sticks all waiting for me outside, and they went, "Happy birthday." And then they put me in the vehicle, on my armoured vehicle. We go out on a patrol in the streets. And so that's like a few minutes into my 18th birthday.
Nice.
So
that's awesome. Respect to that stick leader who went on to join 22 SAS as well, before Christian, he mentioned. But what a coming of age moment, or welcome to the Paras moment for Mr. Craighead.
Well, what happened?
Nothing. Again, most of the time in Northern Ireland, it was just maintaining a presence. And
how much time did you spend in the regiment?
15 years.
15 years.
Yeah.
And then what?
Oh, sorry, in the parachute regiment.
Yes.
Sorry. I was in the 2nd Battalion, the parachute regiment, for 3 years.
Okay.
And then I volunteered to go into Pathfinder Platoon. And Pathfinder Platoon it's the Brigade Reconnaissance Force for the Airborne Brigade. It's very similar. The equivalent in the US would be Force Recon.
Okay.
So very, very hard selection to get in. Fast and furious selection. Do the same hills as what you do on, like, in the Brecon Beacons, running around there, navigating on your own. And then once you're in there, you do high altitude, low opening parachute descents and specialist training. They had M16s at the time, when M16A2s, when the British Army was still on the SA-80 weapons. So it's like a poor man's special forces.
Okay. What year is this?
This is 1996.
1996.
And that first year in Pathfinder Platoon was probably one of the best years of my life. I had so much fun. It was just a good experience.
I don't know a heck of a lot about Pathfinders, but what I do know and have heard is that they have a really good reputation from a soldiering perspective. I didn't know that about their selection, their hills phase. It sounds like they do the same, or in the same area. I don't know if it's the same landmarks or checkpoints as the 22 or UKSF selection, but being in the same area, that's definitely a bonus. Got to help in terms of understanding the terrain, the environment, and some of the routes, especially on the way to different checkpoints, even though there might not be the same checkpoints on the Pathfinder as the UKSF selection. you're going to probably cross paths and go over some similar terrain, or familiar terrain, I should say.
I'm sure it was 1997, they got a sergeant major. And things went bad then, because before it was like a band of rogues. And the sergeant major thing, it's not a point of the sergeant major, it's not to badmouth the sergeant major. But beforehand, I think the command didn't have a point of contact to say, you need to tell your guys to get a haircut. You got to wear issue equipment. So when the emergence of a sergeant major, the brigade headquarters now then had a point of contact. So things stopped being fun. And almost just after Pathfinders, I then had a really bad road accident.
This is in 1997. 1997. So this is a major. Yeah. This is a turning point in your life.
Yes, I think again it's one of those things. What did it have to happen? Probably, and it wasn't very nice. But I was badly injured.
What happened?
Well, we were driving up onto a mountain training exercise in Scotland, and on the motorway, one sort of truck pulled out in front of another. The guy driving it out, I was in a Land Rover. He swerved, kind of lost control of the vehicle, or a vehicle, because there's no witness, because most people died. So that's what they think happened. Land Rover rolled down the hill. I was catapulted out of the back of the Land Rover. I was in a sleeping bag, and that saved my life, because as the Land Rover went flat, one of the trucks rolled on top of the Land Rover and crushed it, killing the driver Pathfinder instantly, and trapping another Pathfinder in the passenger seat who was injured but not that badly. And then I was catapulted out into a tree. And then they found me when the emergency service turned up. They found me in the tree, apparently in a sleeping bag, and I was bust up.
Yeah.
So
man, that's real. I don't know how many people died, but it just shows. I do recall there was a Unimog accident here in NZ where I think they lost one or two of the drivers that were either driving to Waiouru from Palmy or coming back from Waiouru going to Palmy. I can't remember which direction they were heading, but it just shows, man, it can happen at any time, for not just soldiers, but just people in general, traveling to work at just an every other day scenario, a typical day scenario, and next minute, like Christian was flung out of the back and ended up in a tree and didn't know what happened. He's hearing the information and being told what's happened based on what they think or based on what they assume happened. Tragic.
I keep on forgetting one of the terms, but so I dislocated my hip, so got my leg pulled out of its socket in my hip. I broke ribs on my one of the sides, this side, my right side, broke the ribs there. Had a tension hemoneurothorax, so things were getting bad there. Broke my collarbone, my shoulder blade, my jaw, my cheek, my skull, and then I had a bleed on the brain. I had either a subdural hematoma or extradural hematoma. On different medical reports, they say different things. So basically, I had a bleed on the brain, life-threatening. I also broke my neck in 3 places and my back in 7 places. So I was in a bad way.
Yeah,
I was pretty poorly, and they rushed me to hospital, and then my mother and my stepdad, and they came down, and they said to my mother, he's not going to, prepare. They put me on the ward where he's in life support, and now we moved him into the ward where, be prepared that he's gone. Wow. And then at some point I was resuscitated twice, and then I was in a coma for 3 weeks, two and a half weeks, and then I came out of it, and then and I came out of the coma in the recovery ward, and they've taken all luckily I was I was in a coma for most of the time, so I didn't really feel any. I got out of it. I got away with it lightly, so I didn't have to. And I had traction on my leg when I woke up, and my neck was there were fractures, but they were all stable, so I didn't have to have any of these halos or anything on. And I'm in the recovery ward, and I get a phone call. The nurse says, "Oh, there's someone phoning you at the desk." So they're taking the traction off, so I hobble down, and they say, "Yeah, make sure you're at work. Make sure you're back at work in like 2 weeks." So it was about 4 weeks, and I was like, "Okay." And it wasn't even that long ago. It's 1997, and I didn't have any rehab at all for this.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And it's like no rehab. I didn't.
That is crazy. You know, I mean, you'd like to think that sort of stuff is looked at and squared away now, but I would have thought there would be some type of rehab, physical therapy support for him and or anybody else that survived through that, especially from a Defence Force perspective. And I think that's partly, I realise that that's partly why people who have not served in the Defence Force and people who look at it from the conspiracy theories, from the greed perspective, from the hidden agendas perspective, constantly ask the question, and they'll ask people like me, or they'll put comments in videos, or they'll ask other people, other former serving members of the unit, and say, why would you encourage anybody to serve in the Defence Force? Why would you go and serve? Would you let your own children go and serve? It's very much a personal preference, but I've mentioned in numerous videos how much I think I've received and gained from the military as a result, not only during but post. And also, like I have got family members that are serving in the Defence Force, my flesh and blood, my children. So did I encourage them? I never discouraged them. I never encouraged them. I've always just tried to, my wife and I have always just tried to support them. And as long as they're going and doing what it is that they feel that they want to do, because it's what they want, then I'm always going to back them and support them. So, went off topic there a little bit, but disappointing that there was no rehab and support for Christian. Far out.
Didn't even get downgraded on my military docs. I was just like, no rehab. And it was just like, make yourself better. And then eventually I did my...
Not even medically downgraded is crazy that hasn't happened. Usually people will jump onto that in the Defence Force if you are not fit for work, and you'd be downgraded until you go through the steps and processes and earn and complete and pass all the testing and stuff again at the standard to be back and reinstated at your previous setting.
I did my first jump 5 months afterwards, and the first jump I did was from, I think it was, I looked at my logbook, it was 18,000 feet with full operational loadout and carrying a GPMG strapped to my side. That's the first jump I did after that 5 months later, and I shouldn't have done it. But you young guy then, I'm like 23 going, yeah, I'm good. How are you feeling? Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm not good.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it. And I suffered a bit with my back for a few years after that. And then but it's fine now, touch wood. But that was weird, because that's a thing of, I always say to people who are injured now, is like, make sure you're fit. Like, no one's going to thank you for it. No one's going to thank you for like putting yourself on the line again early. Make sure you're recovered. But here's the other thing as well, is I wasn't right because of maybe the bleed on the brain. So my memory, when I think about what I was doing in that 1997 into 1998, until about 10 months afterwards, I wasn't right in the head. And I thought I was right. It's like people who are insane, do they know they're insane? No. It's a simple, I'd say that I'd get into fights, I'd be like, and then eventually I got better. But it was, and again, I'm not throwing dirt, but I was definitely mismanaged.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. They thought it was, I keep on saying again, they thought it would have been better for my welfare to be down in work, but it's a military town. So I'm always going out pretty much most nights drinking and fighting and stuff. So it's like that kind of thing. It's older shot in the 90s. It's good and bad. So, but the best thing, what they should have really done is just stay at home. In hindsight, it would have been just stay at home, get fit, have some home cooking. Yeah, family look after. Yeah, family look after you, keep you right. That's what they should have done. Mm-hmm. Because in their view is come down and the army would keep me right. But the army doesn't keep you right. I was just left I'm just left with the guys again. So, but I recovered from it. And
I know you were in the Iraq invasion, correct, in 2003.
Yeah.
Let's rewind just a little bit to 9/11, 2001.
Yeah.
This is an interesting conversation, I think, because I've never asked a foreign special operator what it was like on 9/11 from their perspective. And so I'd like to ask you, on September 11, 2001, where were you and what was going through your head?
I was in the jungle when it happened, so I didn't hear about it initially. I was actually on selection. It was a selection that I was on. I was an SS selection that I failed. I didn't. I did fail it. I didn't pass it, but I got injured in the jungle. I got injured. I think it was on 9/11. Got Kazivaked out. I was all right, but the training officer wouldn't let me go back into the jungle. So I was then said, come back another time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was and then it's only when I got out from the hospital, having been checked up, then it was still on the news. It was like, and everyone's just like, what the hell? But the thing is, people it's like, the common phrase was, this is like, well, it's like watching a movie. Is this really happening? And so there was that feeling of, wow. And people don't say in UK, and then I think it's quite sad to say, people in UK, I felt when I got back, no one was really, it didn't burn itself into society like it did in the United States. People were aware of it.
Yeah.
But it didn't see it, that searing sort of, we're under attack mentality, like focus. It was just, it's another incident. That's how I view it was felt in UK. It wasn't like this energized. There certainly wasn't people joining up, the military going, right, I've just saw 9/11.
Yeah.
It's time to gear up or whatever. It's that it didn't have that effect.
Did it?
I reckon that's cool to hear Christian speak about that from the perspective. A couple of reasons. I think it's easier from a distance, for us. At the time I was in Australia, at the time I was in Timor when that happened, but living in Australia as part of a member of the ADF, the Australian Defence Force. But I think as I listened to Christian speak about that event, that tragic 9/11 event in the States, it's much easier to look at that and go far out, not be as involved as the country that it has impacted, in this case America at that time. But I recall and remember where I was. It's interesting that he says he was out on patrol, so it sounds like he was in the middle of the selection. So he's through the hills phase, he's into the jungle phase, got Kazivaked out because I think he got injured, he said. And then he must have gone back and then went through after. But I remember we came back. I'm not sure if it was the exact day, but it was on the news and it was pretty raw and fresh. And I think I've shared this in the past. We'd just come back off a task. So I was with 4 RAR Commando Recon Platoon. We came back off a task that we had been out on. I don't know how long we had been out in the bush for. And it was into the afternoon, evening. And the mess was just dead silent. And there was a television over onto the side of the mess where we were in Balabo in East Timor. And everybody's eyes were just fixed on the TV. And then we walked in, we grabbed our food, and we were walking in and glanced over because everybody thought that wasn't normal. It wasn't a normal scene to go into the mess and see that. And it was quiet too. And so we just went in, looked over, saw the news, and we were like, holy heck. And I remember some of the words of some of that. And there were some of the SASR guys in the mess at the time as well, Emmerich 4 they were referred to as. And I remember the comment being said, well, we're about to get pretty busy. That was from guys just within that area that I was fortunate enough to serve with. And man, they were right, with regards to how things ramped up. Maybe not straight away, but definitely over the years, things definitely wrapped up with the GWAT, or the Global War on Terror, whatever acronym or however you want to describe it. Man, crazy. It's interesting also that this is the first time Shawn's asked a foreign serving or a former member of a foreign force, where they were and what it was like, what 9/11 was like for them. It's cool to hear Christians' take on that.
Go through your head that you were probably going to go to war?
Kind of. I was very focused on getting into the unit, so I was like, but that it's only in hindsight did I realize that was a turning point for my life as well, because that's when, up until 9/11, I'd done a couple of deployments with Pathfinders into the Balkans and Sierra Leone, but that's when so how do I frame this? Is that I had a life up until 9/11. I'd always go back to my hometown a lot, and then I'd meet my guys that I know from my hometown and go out and socialize and meet people. That's when things got real, because that's when I realized it was only when I was nearly retiring. Yeah, it's from 2001. That's when I stopped going home. Because things got busier. Mm-hmm. And for me, there was in the unit. Our first deployment was 2003. So we didn't respond. Although Pathfinders did go to Afghanistan to 2001, but I was going on selection that got called off at the last moment.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, great question from Shawn. If anything, like for me and my perspective, what went through my head when 9/11 happened, was the thought that things are going to get busier. But for me, it was also, now I really have to get into the Special Air Service because of that, because of the expectation that things were probably going to get pretty busy in terms of trying to hunt down and get after those that were doing these or orchestrating these types of attacks. So yeah, it definitely lit a fire underneath me personally, and I think some of the others as well that I was fortunate to serve with that 4RAR, especially within Recon Platoon itself, because there was a number of us that went, and some of them, really close mates. We were on the same selection and cycle together, and coming back off that patrol together, seeing the same stuff. We probably had a lot of the same feelings, even though we didn't really talk in depth about it with each other. I don't recall doing that anyway, other than just acknowledging and having a few brief conversations around things are about to get a lot busier.
But then that's when things got joined the army. Joined the unit in 2000.
What is it?
So you deployed as a ally to the United States.
I mean, what was the briefing? I guess, what is it like to go to war for something that happened to a country that you're not a part of?
I think it all comes back to how the mainstream media frame things, isn't it? About this, we're going because of the weapons of mass destruction. We're part of a allied task force to rid the world of evil. That kind of message, isn't it? So I think most British soldiers didn't think they were going there in support of the United States.
Okay,
they were going as part of a task force, which is the United States, and other countries were included.
What did it?
That's a great take. I know for myself, being with the regiment by that stage and us deploying over there in 2003 and being assigned our task force, or being part of our task force, or the Australian contingent task force at that time, it was to go and hunt down these weapons of mass destruction, hunt down these people that were going to be firing and looking to fire these things and remove them. Or, if they surrender, then they surrender, and then we destroy or call in people that can come and properly dispose of these weapons of mass destruction should we find them, and not have to take them out. So the messaging and stuff, he's hit the nail on the head there. Like, I never felt like we were going over, oh, yous have done this to America, and now we're coming to get you. It was, we very much had our own area of operation, for want of a better term, out in the western desert of Iraq, and we had very clear mission objectives and tasks that we were given to go out and do and execute as part of that coalition who the Brits are going to be operating in an area, America's going to be in these areas, and then punching into Baghdad, which they did. And we were out in the areas that we were given. We would have loved to have been reassigned once our task in our area had been cleared, but we weren't reassigned. It wasn't to be during that time.
But it's stuck. I've seen you guys there the entire time,
Mm-hmm.
In the Iraq theater, in the Afghanistan theater. I mean, did it become apparent that the U.S. is going to drag this war on and on and on?
No, I think people just get more soldiers. The average time span of people in the military isn't long career soldiers, but people just go with it. A lot of people, for myself, it's more hindsight. You think, wow, how did that happen?
Yeah.
What was the pulse of just the UK in general? I mean, Europe was very critical of every move that the US made in both of those wars. However, most of them took part in the war.
The media, as far as I'm aware, were pretty supportive of going to war and support our troops.
Really?
And things. Apologies if I'm wrong.
No,
but I was there. So I mean, I was deploying, so I didn't really get it. So that I'm not really seeing the newspapers because I'm deployed. So that's why.
My take on that, I didn't really care. Not that I was paying any attention to what the media were saying. I don't even recall what the Australian media's position was in regards to deploying in 2003. So I don't even know if there was anything made of it in terms of us deploying. I know that when we came back, it was a very low-key, low-profile affair as well. And John Howard was still the Prime Minister, and he was there to greet us when we come back, along with a few other dignitaries and that sort of thing, which was cool, which was nice. But yeah, it was, when that happened, I was like, this is it. This is why we joined. No fanfare when you're leaving. Don't need no big parade when you come back. You want to go, you want to deploy, you want to do the job as well as you can, and you want to be able to come back and look your brothers, your mates in the eye and know that, you performed as well as you could, and that you didn't take any shortcuts, and that you didn't let them down. So that was, that's, for me anyway, that's what it was about. That was more than enough. And it was cool that there wasn't I was actually surprised that the Prime Minister was there, but it didn't bother me either way. I was just happy when I walked into the gymnasium where we were in camp, and I managed to lock eyes with my sweetheart and our two younger children, and her ready to pop with our third or fourth child by that stage. Yeah, some good memories.
I think happened, but I may be wrong. But people might be calling me wrong, and they're just working on in hindsight, going, no, no one wanted to go to war. Tony Blair took us into an illegal war, blah, blah, blah. But I suggest that you maybe weren't saying that at the time. Now you're just saying it in hindsight because you know information, and that's easy to do. And we'll talk about an incident later on as people talk about it and say, remember, people, when you're doing it, you don't know the outcome. Same as when people think about these weapons of mass destruction, whether at the time people thought they existed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at the time, the evidence, the imagery, the satellite imagery, the drone footage, all that sort of stuff, it was pretty compelling, Pretty compelling and convincing, obviously. And yeah, when I saw it, and then we were getting the briefings to go and look for these things and to take them out. You were geared up, ready to rock and roll, ready to go in there and look for these things and take them out before they hurt people, before they were launched and used against innocent civilians or other people. So, yeah, I can resonate with what Christian's talking about. That hindsight is a beautiful thing, Anyway, that's just coming up to 30 minutes now, so I'll wrap this one up here. Again, appreciate your time and your support. Thank you very much, especially if you made it here this long. As always, anybody going through any difficult times, challenges, heartache, hardships, just keep turning up. Keep staying in the fight. Stay as consistent and as disciplined as you can. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Know that the sun will shine again, that there are better days ahead, that there is a light at the end of that long, dark and lonely, miserable tunnel. So stick at it. As always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.